Fragments of Silicon. It's there whether you remember or not.
All right. Welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Daylight Interviews. Joining us this week is Mike of Archangel Softworks.
Hello.
Oh, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing fine. My cohorts here may be a bit more sluggish given the time, but they'll shake it off. Anyway, with that, we shall formally begin things here, and we like to do that by asking this question. What got you interested in video games, both on a professional and a personal level?
Well, personal level, that goes back as far as I can remember. I can't remember how old I was. It would have been single digits. My dad gave me his Commodore 64, which is really aging me here. And yeah, I remember these cassettes you'd put in, and it would click and whir for 20 minutes. You'd get those bars scrolling up and down the screen. You may or may not get to play a game at the end of it, but I absolutely used to love it. And it was a few years after that. He sort of explained to me what it is he actually does for a living. He was a programmer and sort of got me interested in a bit of programming. So, yeah, the Commodore being what it is also had BASIC on it. So I started writing some code. The first program I ever wrote was technically a game. It was a multiple choice quiz with one question. Um, yeah,
I mean, you got to make
there
the
was no.
blocks move, effectively at some point, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, learn to walk before you run, and that's exactly what I was doing. But it was hard coded this. I wonder what I would think if I was able to look back on that code today. But I think that was the start of me being interested in making games as well as playing them. I'd have these ideas that, to my knowledge, no one had made, and I'd want to make them myself.
Hmm. And indeed, at this juncture, at what point did that passion um, flow into professional software making?
That sort of started when I became a professional software developer myself. So I went through a few sort of jobs where I'd be working on it was stuff like database connections and website backends, the sort of stuff you'd associate with a proper grown-up software job. But that gave me some more of the skills. And having actually learned how to write proper software that's more than 20 lines of basic, I thought, hey, I might actually be able to do something with this. So that was when I revisited it. And it was again a lot of learning to walk before I ran, but it unlocked something. It showed me that perhaps I would actually be able to do it rather than just daydream about it. So from there, I would just in my own time, I would make little projects, most of which are lost to time on a hard disk somewhere. But I'd get a bit more sophisticated. Game engines became available, things like Unity, or nowadays I'm on Godot. And I found I was just able to do more and more. And there came a point where I thought, yeah, I'd like to actually have a proper go at this.
And how long ago was that?
It was, where are we now? 2026. It was 3 or 4 years ago that I started winding down some hours to, well, actually, it's slightly longer than that. I was fortunate enough to be taken on by a company that would allow me to work for 3 months and then take an unpaid month off, work for 3 months, month off. So that allowed me a lot more time to sort of focus in on it. I don't think anything I made in that time made it to final release. A lot of that you could consider practice, honing, learning. But I'd say that was the start of doing it seriously when I actually committed some proper time to it. That is going back about, oh, that's about 7 years now. That makes me feel old.
I mean, time, it does fly.
Oh, it
Especially-
really, really does. I'm
especially
sure
when
it was the 90s yesterday.
uh, uh, I know the feeling. Like,
Oh,
I
very
think we all
much.
know
Yeah.
that feeling.
Oh, I think we do, and it only gets worse.
No argument there. I'm like,
I've found my people.
like, uh, still, at what point did you reach the level of releasable software?
The first time I released some software was 2-ish years ago. So this was shortly after I'd switched over to Godot. I found some examples online that were just about moving around a grid. Um, and I did the thing that I know a lot of people are guilty of, which is starting from a prototype, just throwaway prototype. It was actually called blocks_001. That was the project name. I thought, I'm just going to have a bit of a practice here. And I would add stuff to it, and I would add stuff to it, and I would add stuff to it. And eventually it became Vectic boosted, and I released it. So I really did plan on putting that down at some point and starting again, which I never did. But that was the first thing where after a few months of developing it, I thought, okay, obviously not there yet, but I think I might actually be able to release this, which of course I did. That's on Steam. I did take a couple of hiatuses from that and from Highway Noir to work on Game Jam games as well. So I don't know, for a given value of release, it's something that I put out there, but it's not something that I put on a store. But yeah, it was that first experiment with Godot that grew into something I wanted to release, which I have to admit I didn't expect.
Well, I suppose it's worth probing. Could you identify what about the Godot engine that made it so appealing to code in?
The funny thing is, when I first picked it up, okay, so when I very first picked it up, it's because Unity was having one of their controversies. I was a Unity dev at the time, and I thought, well, let's have a look at the thing, see what's out there. I found Godot, I had a try, and this does not paint me in a good light. I was arrogant. I thought I could just open up a sample project, dig around, and understand it inside half an hour, which obviously I couldn't. And I dismissed it. I thought, I don't like this. Then Unity had another one of their little controversies. So I came back to it and I had a proper look at it. I tried to learn it properly this time, and that actually worked. The coding language itself, GD script, I have to admit I wasn't a fan of it at first. I come from a very sort of C# background. It's all curly braces and semicolons, and GD script, it looks very different. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I got used to it and I found it's appropriate for what it is. It's not a huge, heavy piece of machinery. It's pretty easy to use, and yet it's also very flexible. So I found that started to appeal to me. The tool itself, I think it's made by people who are coming from a really good place, so that was appealing. And I think once the systems click, I just found it a very intuitive system to work with, and so I've stuck with it.
It seems like you made the right call.
I'm glad you think so.
I mean, like, it's not an entirely objective analysis. Like, it can't be, because
Oh no, of course.
the engines are so different. Just in
Yeah.
terms of what you've been able to do, and getting away from Unity's controversies. That alone seems to be, if you'll excuse the phrase here, the price of admission.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And there was a time where I thought it's exactly like you say, price of admission. Unity is a piece of technology. The last time I used it, it's really good, but there's just too much baggage with it, and I decided it was no longer worth that price of admission.
Yeah. Plus, seeing what you've released onto Steam, it's like, Godot will work well with this. Like,
Yeah,
where Godot has weaknesses is scaling up. Like,
yeah,
doing, as you said, doing heavy machinery, big 3D stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It has the inverse issue of what Unity did. When Unity was early days, it didn't really have a way to do 2D, and people had to
Yeah.
basically make that framework.
Yeah. Just there's been a couple of uses of Godot in the big time space, most notably and usually the modern day port of Sonic Colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still like Godot is still not on the level in terms of proliferation that Unity or Unreal enjoy currently.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely. I gather it's gaining ground in game jams. I see these pie charts occasionally of how many games were made in this, how many games in that, and the Godot sector grows every year.
Yeah, it is growing. It's just, that takes time. Like,
Oh, of course. Yeah. It's a relatively new kid on the block.
yeah. Like, unless like Unity did something absolutely catastrophic, which would be impressive given what they've done in recent years.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
Like, anyway, so looks like the first released product that's on the Steam store is it Vedic or Vitric?
Vectic. I just messed around with the verb vector.
That makes sense given the style here.
Yeah, it's I suppose it sort of, it's not obviously not vector graphics, but sort of invokes it a little bit. But there was a game that someone introduced me to at university, Vector Racing, which is where the concept of, okay, you're moving 2 forward and 1 to the side, what do you want to do on your next turn, comes from changing the vector. But I just thought it would be that much better if I added lasers to it.
I mean, did it work?
I enjoyed making it. I mean, it doesn't have a massive audience, but that's okay. It was a first game. It was a very small project, but no, I was really pleased with what I managed to make. It was a learning experience. I was learning Godot while I was doing it, so I think for the process, for something that's come out of a learning process in large part, I'm really pleased with where I ended up. And yeah, I do think the lasers improved it. I mean, what isn't better if you add lasers, right?
Depends. Like, lasers may not work well in a prehistoric game.
No, okay, you've got me there. Yeah.
It's like, like I said, but yeah, lasers do improve a good chunk of things.
Usually my theory is
just
dinosaurs, pirates, or zombies. That yeah, I went with lasers for this one.
fair enough. Especially since we've got geometric shapes in terms of player character and enemies.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to. Sorry, go on.
Lasers fit in well with what you got. With,
Yeah.
that.
It seemed like the best choice out of that, pirate, zombies, and dinosaurs.
Agreed. And how long did it take you to make a Vedic?
Vectic was. I'm thinking back now. It was approximately a year. I can't remember if it was slightly more or slightly less. I'm sure I could. If I were to start that project again, I'm sure I could turn it round a lot quicker. Now I'm that much more familiar with Godot. I'd make better design choices. But yeah, for that first big major proper project in Godot, I was also moving house at the time, so that took some time away. A year does sound like a long time, but that's the reason.
I mean, when you stack up everything, not just external factors, but just you're learning the engine as well as building a full game. You're actually bucking the trends here. Like, we have had so many developers say that their first full game took 2 to 3 years, but that has to do with scope, if I'm being honest here.
Oh, totally. I know. I'd imagine Vectic is a small game, and I would never pretend otherwise. I'm sure there are plenty of people who went in much bigger than I did, and obviously that's going to take longer, and I'm sure the results show it as well.
Well, it's like a good chunk of other devs is, they wanted to make a specific game.
Yeah.
And so they learn all the tool making, building processes, all that stuff. And then they go into what they want to really make. Maybe they don't make another one, but they really want to make this one. So
yeah, I mean, I hear people talk about the concept of a dream game a lot. I'm sure, Vectic, no,
Yeah.
not the game I've been dreaming of making all my life, but I think more power to people who are able to just go straight in and do that right off the bat. Very impressed by that.
Yeah. Like, well, to each their own, I suppose. I mean, we have developers of differing philosophies. Like we've had a few here who absolutely hate the time sync paradigm. Like we've had a few who say if it takes more than a year and a half, just trash it.
Mm.
Like they're not that numerous, but we've had enough of them to note that.
I guess by that time your code base is getting pretty big, and it can be daunting to look at. I've definitely got experience of that, but I'd want to hold on to the idea, I think, at least.
Mm. That also happens too. Anyway, so with that, what lessons do you feel that you learned from your first title?
I think, well, I mean, my dad taught me this many, many years ago, but it really hammered it home. Everything takes longer and costs more. Every project I pick up, I think, oh, this is going to be a nice quick one. I'll turn this around in a few months, and yeah, a year later, I'm still working on it. I think I learned there are some decisions you have to make early. So, for example, with the idea of a turn-based racing game with those lasers, I didn't decide early enough. Okay, for example, what happens if two cars try to cross paths? And then I built my design a certain way and thought, I should have made this decision much sooner, because now I'm having to reverse back through and redesign a load of stuff. So that was an important lesson to take away. If you come across a problem and you're not quite sure of the solution, do try to work it out, even if you just have it at the back of your mind, even if you're not ready to do it right then, right there. I also learned the importance of making noise about your project. So while I was working on Vectic, I very much did that in isolation. I wasn't on any social media. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't do anything really. And as a result, no one's really heard of it, which is completely fair enough. So yeah, you've got to make people aware. If you build it, they will not necessarily come. You've got to put that work in. That was probably the single biggest lesson from Vectic.
Still, very important lessons to learn, I think.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think that's the lesson I would want anyone else to take away if they asked. It's if you want to make games just for yourself or just for whoever finds it on itch.io, absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. I'd like to do more of that. But yeah, you're not going to sell millions. You're not going to be the next Call of Duty if you don't put in that work. And even if you do, you probably still won't. It's it's something to bear in mind. It's something you've got to take seriously.
All right. So with that in mind, let's shift to your more recent project. First of all, for the uninitiated, what is Highway Noir?
So Highway Noir is it's a driving game. It's a very arcade driving game. It's no simulator, but it's done with a sort of film noir look and feel to it. It's got that aesthetic. So something that I haven't seen in a lot of driving games or arcade driving games is much of a story. So there's a campaign mode. So it has this sort of dark and gritty, very, very slightly cyberpunk story running through it, which feeds into the whole noir aesthetic. But it's based around the idea of rushing down the motorway at silly miles per hour, weaving through traffic, which is, of course, not something I would encourage anyone to do. But we're in game land here. It's that sort of things you can't do in real life kind of game. It comes from the idea of sort of like being in a flow state and just getting on. You're the best on the road, and can the police catch up with you? Can a whole phalanx of them compete with just you because you're so great at this? I mean, power fantasy has a slightly negative connotation to it, but it's just that feeling of being able to get on and be the best at what you're doing. And of course, there are some scripted bits in there as well to bring out some action movie car chases. It's you've also got the option of just playing in arcade mode and not having any particular objective at all, just enjoying the music and weaving through the highway. That was a very wordy description. You're probably looking for more of an elevator pitch. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Like we get the long version, honestly, more than the elevator pitch.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Not just me.
Like, honestly, if we get the elevator pitch, it's either we get the marketing people.
Yeah.
Especially if they have multiple games to talk about.
Sure.
They kinda,
yeah.
Yeah. But when it comes to the pure developers, most of them, they're very wordy when it comes to talking about their game. Not all of them, but
Guilty as charged. I mean, the absolute, if I were to distill it down as far as it will go, film noir driving game.
I mean, it does remind me of a series of arcade racers, the Chase HQ series.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
Very similar premise. Like, they are actual arcade racers. Had a bunch of ports to, like, all the consoles and home computers of the age. But it is, you are driving and you've got to ram a criminal off the road. Like, it's
I've made a note of that.
Yeah, it's just, in terms of its aesthetic, like, literally the polar opposite. Whereas your game is, gritty and dark and, black. That game is very sunny and bright because it really, really wanted to be Miami Vice.
Gotcha. I mean, the thing is, I actually really like that. I think there are a lot of... we went through that phase, I think it was in the noughties, where everything was brown and grey, and it's nice to see a reaction against that, but that sort of black and white with splashes of colour, it's an aesthetic I've always loved, and that's what I chose to go with. But hey, it's great to hear that there's something similar that goes for a completely different feel.
Yeah, in fairness, these games were released like late 80s, early 90s, so before all of the... Yeah, it's before all the brown and gray hit the
yeah.
Like, it also reminds me of a very old Atari driving game called Night Racer.
Night Racer? I don't think I've played that one either.
Yeah.
I'm going to end up making a lot of notes here.
It helps when you know a lot about video games to do a video game show, I find.
True, yeah, you're far more of a scholar than I am.
But, obviously it's nowhere, it's just like you driving down like a representation of some pixels that are like, there's only so much you could do in, like, I think the game came out in 1977, 78.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's one of the early Atari 2600 games, and even arcade. So it's real groundbreaking stuff for the time.
Yeah,
it's just it's gonna look ultra primitive, even a couple years down the line. So
yeah.
But anyway, so with that in mind, what was the spark of creativity that made you want to create this night driving game? Can't really call it a racing game because you're not racing.
There's an element of racing. I was careful to include that. I mean, people are going to expect it, and it does make a good addition. But yeah, I think of it as a driving game because you are chasing, you are being chased. Sometimes it's against the clock. But yeah, I try to think of it as more than a racing game. The spark of it. This is the funny thing is that it was a weekend project that got out of hand. And if that's reminding you of the origin story of Vectic, then that's probably fair enough. So I was trying to work on a kind of first PlayStation aesthetic type horror game, my usual sort of very small project kind of idea. And it's just something that's been at the back of my mind forever. This idea of weaving around, going really fast, and having to dodge left and right. And just one Saturday, I thought, okay, so I'm moving into 3D in Godot. I wonder if I could actually do this. So I got some blocks, and I got them moving through space, and I got them moving left and right, and then I added this, and then I added that, and I was back on the track to actually making something. I think it was around about the time I decided to go for that noir aesthetic that I thought, yeah, okay, this is my main project now. So, I mean, there's no point dancing around it. It's largely based on Sin City. That look, I remember. I think that was the first film I saw that made use of that aesthetic, and it absolutely blew me away the first time I saw it in the cinema. And because I'm not a great artist by any means, but I think if you've got a distinct visual style, that's something that can get you quite a long way if you use it well. Having settled on that, that was where I thought, okay, a noir look, this needs a noir story. And it just grew and grew and grew from that afternoon of, I wonder if I can make some cars go forward and backward and left and right.
And okay, so at what point did you realize the project was getting out of hand?
I think again it was that okay, but what if I made the player car colourful and everything else black and white? Oh, okay, that actually looks quite good. All right, so what happens if instead of blocks I put tail lights on? Okay, I've never used glow in Godot. Can I make glow and emission work? Oh yeah, let's do that. And it was when I realized, hang on, I can actually show this to friends and family, and they immediately go, oh yeah, I see where you're going with this. It's that noir aesthetic. It's clearly cars on a motorway. You've got some speed, you've got some atmosphere. And that was when I thought, yeah, okay, this has gone beyond a weekend project, and I've still got so many more ideas that I want to add to this. I can't just put it down now. And yeah, I guess that's pretty well described as having got out of hand. It was at that point that, yeah, I was showing people and they were reacting well to it.
Well, I mean, that's a good
I think it's a good sign
if
because
people are
I know.
responding positively to the prototype or
Oh,
really
yeah, I think it reached across the divide for the various non-gamers in my life. So I showed them Vectic, which was these very simple graphics that mostly just sat there until you pressed something, and it's completely fair enough. That doesn't speak to everything, to everyone, but you show them an art style, something that is much more relatable. And you get a lot more people saying, ah, right, okay, yeah, I like what you've done with this. I can see how that works. And yeah, these are people who aren't going to be interested in playing it because they're not gamers. Again, totally fair enough. But it makes you think, okay, this has some wider appeal than something like Vectic, which I just made for myself and anyone else who is nerdy in the same way.
But it seems like you're pretty proud of what you've built here.
Yeah, I think there are improvements to be made. I can always add patches, but yeah, as a project, I'm really pleased that I've seen it through. It's kind of I think of it as my first really big proper release, and that's kind of a bucket list item. So yeah, it's hard not to be proud of that.
And how long did
I think Adam might be having some technical difficulties with connection.
Oh, hang on. Is it acting up?
Yeah.
No.
The joys of live broadcasting. It was doing well for most of the episode, and then it decides, oh, you're halfway through the show, time to crap out.
Yeah.
That's technology for you. It knows. It waits.
Believe me, I know.
Better than most, I imagine.
Alright, Adam, are you
Oh.
back among us again?
Yeah. Not sure what happened there. Well, the new wireless router is on its way, though it'll probably be sometime during the week where I'll actually get time to fiddle with it and stuff.
Right.
So, but putting that aside, anyway, as I was trying to ask before connection issues hit, how long did it take this game to be built in relation to your first? Like, did it take about the same amount of time? Did it take longer?
It did take longer. It took about half as long again. So I'd say 18 months, maybe a little more. Yeah, a little more than 18 months. Let's go for. It was more than 18 months. It was less than 2 years, which I think compared to roughly a year for the first game. And I definitely took a leap up in complexity, so I'm pleased with myself for turning that around. Obviously, I'd learned a lot more about the engine, but I still had new features that I needed to pick up. For example, I never played around with emission, just as a random example, and graphical environment settings. There was still a lot of new things to learn. A step up from 2D to 3D. It is real time rather than turn based, or physicsy stuff to try and work out. So a bit of a departure in a lot of ways. So I'm kind of surprised it didn't take longer than it did. It was one of those situations. Someone said to me that ready is a decision, not a feeling. And that's something I really had to hold on to because it's a project that I could keep going indefinitely. I could always keep adding things. There's always something that I'd like to improve, I'm sure. 18 months felt like a long time, and other times it didn't feel that long. I really felt my release date coming up on me, I have to admit. But yeah, in terms of it taking half as long again, I think there's more than half as much again complexity. So 18 months again, I have to say I'm kind of pleased with myself for managing that.
Indeed. Especially since, as you mentioned, you seem to have continued to experiment with the Godot engine.
Yeah, finding new things. There is a whole lot. The best examples, most of them are graphical, but there is a whole lot of stuff that I just hadn't had to touch before. I was just shifting sprites around a screen previously, but I had to figure out all sorts of shader stuff that I'd never looked at. I mean, shaders are a whole a whole can of worms. That's the expression I'm looking for. Yeah, getting in there, writing all that relatively low-level code to try and get things to look just so. There aren't as many textures as you would think in Highway Noir. A lot of it is based on shaders, and a lot of that was a learning experience, but really fun one, I have to say. It's satisfying writing those.
That's good to know. And I'd like to shift a bit to a couple of aspects that we haven't really touched on yet in terms of Highway Noir. And first, that's the music. How did the music come about?
So the music came about because I mentioned I'm not much of an artist. I'm even less of a musician. I don't know if there's such a thing as less than no musical talent, but if there is, that is very much me. So it was something that I couldn't even dream of doing myself. Not with my current skills anyway. I could practice for years and I still wouldn't be that good, I imagine. So I knew that I wanted music in the game, obviously. I think it would be a bit weird bombing along the motorway with no background music. It's part of what brings it alive. It's important. And I sort of had at the back of my mind that I would like an original soundtrack. What I didn't want to do was go into a library or anything where people might say, "Oh yeah, I recognise that track." Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's what I did for Vectic, but I wanted this one to be a little more distinct. And what actually happened was I hadn't got to the point of thinking about it yet. But I got a DM on Blue Sky saying, "Hey, are you looking for musicians?" And the answer was, "Yeah, I am actually." um, so that was how I commissioned my first couple of people, and they did really great work. And it was this amazing moment. I felt like it unlocked a new kind of imposter syndrome, is how I tend to put it. That there are all these serious, talented people who do this for a living, and they're taking my silly little project seriously, and they're willing to work on it. And that was just crazy to me. But one of them introduced me to a friend of his who also composed a track that was amazing. I met some people at a conference who asked if I was looking for music. Yes, obviously. They contributed. That was amazing. I reached out to one person who just has a really good pedigree in video game music. That was the only person I messaged directly. And she absolutely smashed it out of the park as well. And what I've ended up with is this soundtrack that, and I won't say I'm proud of it because I didn't make it, but I'm just blown away by what other people have been able to do. It's a soundtrack that I've had on in the car, just driving in real life, sensibly and legally, just to be clear. Or I'll put it on while I'm working, and I just don't get sick of it. I absolutely love the music, and I'm so grateful to everyone who contributed.
Is the soundtrack available officially outside of the game?
At present, no, but it is something I've got at the back of my mind. It's not a firm commitment to do it or anything like that, but I've been asked about this by the musicians from the beginning, and I've said that, yeah, it's definitely something I'd consider. I think it's relatively easy to do on Steam.
Right.
Yeah, I would certainly like to. Now, once the dust has settled a bit more, I would certainly like to look into doing that, and there's provision in the contract that I signed with everyone so that they get a fair cut if we do go that way. But yeah, it's I've had a couple of people ask, so it's certainly something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suppose it's worth asking how much difficulty would it be in releasing the soundtrack on, Bandcamp, Spotify, or even Steam?
Steam is where my mind goes first, because I've already got a Steam account. I'd have to. I don't think there's any reason I can't release it on other platforms. I think it's all done in such a way that I'd be able to do that. But yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to put it up in all sorts of places. That's more people who get the chance to find it and listen to it, and hopefully drive some more people towards the very talented musicians who made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like it's an idea worth pursuing at the very least.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, absolutely. The release date was a month ago, almost to the day, and I've been in a little bit of sort of just relax, get my bearings back after that. But yeah, like I said, the dust is settling, so I think it's definitely worth looking into.
And did this process also extend to the creation of the story, the writing, and the voice acting?
So the story and the writing are all me. That's something that developed over time. So there were certain elements that I had in mind from pretty close to the beginning, but the specifics sort of developed over time. And I'd make lots of notes and I'd add things, I'd subtract things. Eventually, I wrote a script that I would tweak later. The voice acting, there are a couple of instances of myself being in there. But all the other voices, all the proper voices that actually sound any good, those are other people. So similar story to the music. There's one person who reached out to me by email asking if I was looking for voice actors, and it was pretty much the right time to be thinking about that. So I said, yeah, sure. Had a listen to some of his samples. I thought, yeah, I reckon you've got this. I reckon you can do this. And sure enough, he could. There was someone else who I reached out to. I got the email address off her website. Again, found her on Blue Sky. And then finally, there's a friend of mine, Breck, he voices characters on a podcast. It's the SCP database where they read out some of the cases. He plays characters on that. We were getting on really well on Blue Sky, and he'd mentioned that he's a voice actor. I said, "Hey, do you want to have a part?" And fortunately for me, he said yes. So that's how I came by my voice actors. That was a sort of really combination of finding people in different ways. Yeah, and I'm really grateful to all of them as well, because I think that without that voice acting, I'd imagine trying to just read those subtitles while you're driving, it wouldn't work.
Remember, kids,
I mean,
don't text and drive.
do not text and drive. Do not drive at 400 kilometers per hour plus. Do not do the pit maneuver on random cars. But yeah, absolutely. I think it was important for atmospheric reasons, just like the music. There needed to be voice acting in there. And even if I wanted to, there was no way I could have done all that myself.
I mean, it makes sense. And once again, this may be a bit of a hard question to answer, but it is worth asking. And how did you feel about creating all of that? Like, do you feel good about the story and everything?
I feel like the story, that was another situation of ready as a decision rather than a feeling. I think I could have spent forever tweaking this and tweaking that. And I think, like a lot of code, if I were to tear the whole thing down and start again, there are probably some improvements I could make, I'm sure. But based on what I wrote, I think I could have done a lot worse. I'm pretty happy with how it ended up. I hit all the key points that I wanted to with the story. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but there are some themes in there. And yeah, I feel like I hit everything I wanted to there. I'd probably work on some of the characterization a bit more if I were to do it again. Maybe flesh out some of the characters a little and give them some more of their own moments. But in terms of the actual narrative, I think I got where I wanted to be.
Okay. And you mentioned that this game has been out for about a month now. How has it been doing in the Steam marketplace so far?
A lot of the time, I'm reluctant to look at it. I just want to get to it. It's scary. I mean, honestly, it's been pretty slow. I would have liked it to have had more eyes on than it has, but yeah, that's okay. I mean, this is one of those bucket list things. I've had the opportunity to have a go, and just for that alone, I'm very lucky that I've been able to have a try. So, am I expecting to be the next Call of Duty? No, absolutely not, and I don't think I'd want to be. Would I have liked it to have sold a bit better? Yeah, I think I would, but people have gone out and found it, and it's just so cool to me that I've got two games now out on Steam, and there are complete strangers, people I've never met, people I've never spoken to, who are finding it and playing it. And okay, I'm sure not all of them. No game is for everyone, but at least some people seem to be having a good time with it. I got a review online, 8.5, I think it was. So yeah, even if it doesn't sort of become a massive thing, doesn't sell a whole lot, I've had some positive reception out of it, and that's something that makes me really happy, and I'm going to hold on to forever.
That's good. And I suppose the next question here is, have you thought about bringing either game to other platforms?
I did get a question about, I think it was Good Old Games. Someone asked me if it'll be releasing there. That's another one of those things, a bit like the soundtrack. It's something I would like to do, but not something I've given a massive amount of thought to. I was in the late stages of development at the time and very much in the must finish code kind of mindset. But with a bit more distance, with a bit more calm, yeah, I'd certainly like to look at GOG. I mean, itch.io is the one that comes to mind. It's a possibility. No reason why not, I guess. Other platforms, there's Epic that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are others, but it's something I'd like to look into. I don't see any reason to restrict it only to Steam. I've not signed any kind of exclusivity deal, so there's no reason not to look into it.
Right, but in terms of other platforms, I generally do mean consoles and or mobile.
Oh, sorry, I see what you mean. Okay, so mobile. This was some time ago. I did try just in Godot just to see what would happen. I exported it as an Android app and put it on my phone, and it ran at seconds per frame. So I think I should probably leave the mobile market alone for that one. Console. I did consider Switch porting. And I know that's an involved and potentially expensive process. And the original Switch, I looked this up and I was surprised that the horsepower under there it's more comparable than you think to something like an Android phone. So it might not run great there either. What I don't know about is the Switch 2. That's something I need to look into. As far as Xbox and PlayStation, for example, go, honestly not given that a lot of thought. I don't really know what the process is, but it's designed to, at least in principle, work with controllers. It's not reliant necessarily on a mouse and or keyboard. So I think that's a never say never thing. And I might have to do some research into what it takes to get something onto PlayStation or Xbox, because the honest answer is I really don't know.
From some of the stuff I've seen, if you could get it to run on, say, a PS4, okay, you could probably get it to run on the Switch too.
Okay, that's good to know. All right,
Yeah.
that's really helpful, actually. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just the Switch would be a problem for a couple of reasons. Not just because of performance, but the engine you're using. But like the consoles have great hooks with Unity and Unreal. I don't know if those are as strong with Godot.
I think you're onto something there, because to the extent that I've read about it, Godot, very open source. Things like Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, very much not open source in a lot of cases. So you either have to do a lot of digging and a lot of building your own stuff, or you have to pay someone quite a lot of money to do it for you. Find the right package. I know it's not straightforward, but it's certainly something to think about, look into. The worst that can happen is I find it's not really practical. No reason not to try.
True enough. True enough. And I suppose my final question at this juncture is, have you given any thought to what game number 3 is going to be?
Game number 3 is something I go back and forth a lot on. So what I do know is I'd like to return a bit to, not necessarily turn-based, it doesn't have to be, but something a bit slower paced. So when you're trying to simulate flying along at 420 kilometers per hour, works out at something like 150 meters per second. And when you're putting that through a game engine, and even at 60 FPS, you can start running into issues with just how fast things are going past each other, and that's a problem I would like to not deal with next time. So either something turn-based or something that happens at sort of lower real-world speeds. So I do have a bit of a side project going on at the moment, which is turn-based. It's entirely possible that will be the next thing that grows out of a weekend project into game number 3. Or maybe I'll be disciplined enough to keep it as a weekend project this time. I'm sure so many devs, I have so many ideas that I would like to do. So I've long thought, how funny would it be if Jurassic Park had zombies in it, for example?
Oh, no.
That would. Oh yeah, see, there we go. I'm back to those dinosaurs and zombies. I haven't quite found a way to fold pirates into that yet, but there's time.
I mean, I can imagine Jurassic Park is just 2 movies away from doing zombie dinosaurs, given how many Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies there've been.
I believe we're up to number 7 now, and I think you're right. And in the same way that the Fast and Furious went into space, I don't see why Jurassic Park wouldn't have zombies at this point. Yeah, so we were fewer movies in when I first thought of that. There's also the sort of mention of horror games based on sort of PS1 style. Whether it's PS1 style or not, I would like to try my hand at horror games. I realise none of this is a straight answer. I suppose the honest answer is it's all to play for at the moment, but it won't be something that screams past at 1,000,000 miles per hour. It'll be something a bit slower, something a bit more considered. I like to try lots of different things. I'm trying not to just pigeonhole myself into one niche. It's just not as much fun.
Game
No,
4 is
that's
zombie drivers.
That's already been done.
Yeah, that's true.
I literally have a game called Zombie Drivers HD on my Steam account.
I think I have the same one, actually. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. And for some reason, the soundtrack to that, that might have came with like a very cheap bundle. Anyway, but your answer does actually make sense to me because you've just finished your most recent project. You've been taking some time off, so you're basically in the incubation phase, or even the brainstorming phase.
Yeah, can I steal that? Because that's actually a really good description.
Sure, why not?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Right, so I've asked all of the questions I wanted to ask. Petty, do you have anything further?
I think I'm good.
All right, and I just heard Gallix drop out.
Yep.
So, right, so I think we are done for the time being.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It was a very stimulating conversation.
Yeah, second that.
So, Mike, was wonderful hearing about your projects, and maybe we'll do this again in the future sometime.
That would be great. We'll have to stay in touch.
All right. So, anyway, the games are Vetic Boosted, or Vetric. I cannot get that name sorted out.
You were right the first time. Vectic Boosted.
Vectic Boosted. $199 and Highway Noir for $11.99. Both are available now on Steam, so be sure to go and purchase them today, if you so please. With that, we have reached the end of another episode of Fragments of Silicon. So, as always, be sure to tune in next time for the Sunday reviews. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.